and welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. Well, Josh, welcome to another off-day recording.
Yeah.
Isn't this just lovely?
Because traditionally tonight would have been reserved for me editing the podcast.
Yeah, but somebody in this recording has to go on vacation for some time.
Yeah.
So they can't record. I wonder who the heck that is, huh? Weird.
It sounds like you're blaming me,
never know.
but also we'll never know. But we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. Well, my hope is that we will have the chaos energy with us like we did last time we had an off-day recording. So for this week in the Lukewarm Open, I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a dive into a more focused topic than kind of what we've been doing. And when I mean focused, kind of taking one particular thing and kind of looking at it and just kind of expressing what our opinion is about these things in D&D. And so when I was a kid, now I kind of have to build up a little story before I jump into our Lukewarm Open, because when I was a kid, and even still now today, my favorite thing in the whole entire world were dinosaurs, okay? Like, I had buckets and buckets of dinosaur toys that I would, take out to the yard and play in the dirt and have them eat each other and run around like crazy with them.
Mm-hmm.
And as an adult, it's kind of still... Okay, now I don't go sit in the dirt and play with dinosaur toys anymore, but I will tell you that I still love... There's a game called Ark Survival Evolved where, you tame dinosaurs, you build bases and stuff, and it's one of my favorite games ever, mainly because it kind of itches that, sentimental button that every person seems to have when it in regards to your little childhood loves, and one of those is dinosaurs for me. Now, D&D and dinosaurs. Thoughts? Because I'm not sure where I stand on D&D and dinosaurs.
D&D and dinosaurs, I think, can be fun, but I limit them. Like how D&D does it in the lore, how there are dinosaurs on the island, or at one point peninsula, of Cholt. And it kind of, they're there and nowhere else. And so they exist and they're fun to play with, but they're not everywhere. I also like the idea of you get reports of a dragon somewhere and then you find one of the last surviving dinosaurs type thing. And it's you're oh, I thought we were getting called for a dragon. This is not a dragon.
Now, I don't know why, but for some reason, I just don't see dinosaurs in D&D working together very well, and I have no idea why. I don't. You see, it seems like it would be something that would fit, right? Like you fight a T-Rex, or you're fighting a plesiosaur down in the water, but for some reason I can't connect the two very well, and I'm not sure why. Because
my thing is that I have from an early age assumed. I from an early age have associated medieval stories with dinosaurs for a long time. Because...
Oh, really?
Yes, because if you look at all of the different societies in what we consider the medieval period, why do pretty much all of them have stories of fighting large reptiles? So I always just thought, oh, well, maybe there was a few surviving dinosaurs that they as the stories got embellished, eventually they had wings, eventually they breathed fire, eventually they had all this stuff. But the story might have simply been, it was just a dinosaur the people fought.
Oh, okay. You thought this as a kid? This was a real thing?
Yeah. It kind of grew into that, but the idea of why do all of these completely separate cultures and such have all stories of large reptiles? That's really specific thing to have in your lore. well, history. It's not really lore if it's real, but you know what I mean.
I mean, they did have their own lore. They did have their own lore for sure. It wasn't just, it wasn't just all truth, but they definitely had quite a bit of lore. But
Yeah.
still, that's pretty funny.
But like that's such a weird thing to all have. There's got to be some reason for it.
I don't have the answer. Like, I don't really.
Well, so that's the thing.
know
Science doesn't have the answer right now. It's like one of those things that we need to go back with in a time machine to verify. So it's really all we can do is just have ideas and theories. So I have always associated medieval and knights with fighting dinosaurs because I think that is what it was, and it just got embellished to be dragons, which both fighting a dinosaur and fighting a dragon are incredibly cool things.
Do you think, like, I don't know, like raptor riders is like a cool concept, like a knight who rides a raptor?
No.
Wow.
That just seems silly to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's super cool.
Because I think the raptors would be the first thing that would be killed out. They would have been hunted. Maybe they tried to domesticate them, but I don't think it would have worked. I think it was one of those things where they were like some of the first ones to die, and the ones that survived were like giants, like the ones that scared people to go against, like T-Rexes, or even like some that we know are herbivores, but they still look like these giant reptilians, and you're like, if you didn't know, you'd be like, I don't want to go against that thing. That thing's gonna kill me.
All right, now I'm curious, and this is kind of getting a little off topic, but I'm a little curious now. What do you think the world would look like if dinosaurs still existed? Like, how would it?
I don't think it would look very different.
What we've done.
I don't think it would look very different.
You don't?
No, I think they would be endangered for sure. I think
it
it
probably would have killed them all, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it would be like they're endangered because they're so like that's a lot of scales, and that's a lot of like, you know how they like kill like snakes for just their pelts.
Oh yeah,
like they'd easily do that to dinosaurs. But also, like, I think there'd be a few in zoos and stuff. I don't think it would ever go bad like Jurassic Park levels, but I think there would be zoos with dinosaurs in them and stuff. I mean, we have Komodo dragons. If those aren't dinosaurs, I don't know what is.
True. Well, a Komodo dragon rider is a common knight, That's just, it's a common...
They're too low to the ground. You couldn't ride them well, and they also eat humans, which is just...
No, you ride them like a surfboard, right? You just, like, stand on them like a paddleboard, and they just go.
I'm sorry, have you ever seen two Komodo dragons wrestling? It is... Like, you just immediately feel like that thing could murder me so hard. Like, I would be dead. I couldn't do anything against that guy. They are the scariest creatures on our planet.
Well, I watched a video about Komodo dragons one time, and those things are terrifying. Like, they got like paralyzing
they're
spit and like
horrifying and powerful.
Teeth and yeah, it's like awful. They run faster than a human, and if they want to kill you, they will. Like, it's terrible.
Nope.
I don't know, but like the world would obviously have to be completely different if dinosaurs are still alive, because the amount of food and things they consume is way different than what animals do today. At least most animals do today.
Yeah.
So it would be.
I mean, it's the same way how like mammoths went extinct.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so it would definitely be.
I mean, even
like
we're infringing on like needed habitats of animals still to this day, where it's like they're losing the habitat that they eat off of, and if they don't have that, there's literally going to be they're going to die out. And so I think it would be a similar problem as you're saying with the death of dinosaurs.
I don't know. Like, I think it would have, I think it could have gone. I mean, again, I'm not a paleontologist. I'm not any kind of weird. I don't have
You're not?
degree or anything in this, but.
No.
Well, I had a lot of dinosaur bones as a kid that were supposed to be real dinosaur bones, but, listen, I brought them to a museum and I don't have them anymore. It's Aaron's plastic bone museum, so I don't have those anymore. So I haven't studied in a long time since I was a child. So
You lost your PhD
I
after
know
your
deep.
childhood. It makes sense.
No, but I think like I'm not sure. So obviously, I think humans would probably still be alive, but like I think our technology would probably have been stunted pretty bad because I feel like the
No,
dangerous.
I think we're so ingenuitive and dangerous ourselves that I don't think I think like my idea of my theory of knights literally fought large reptiles. Like I think that
But like,
if that it was true, then that would be humans would be so thinking highly of themselves or even arrogant to be like, I need to face this giant reptilian to make myself feel better.
yeah, I mean, so the reason I don't know, like if I think about like human history and how like far humans have come in such a short amount of time,
Yeah.
there was a long point throughout our history where we, used clubs and spears and, heck, even all the way up to like plate mail and swords. And like if you take a T-Rex and you put it up against somebody who has a sword, right? It's not going to go well. I mean, like there's just not a lot of advantages that early humans had against the dinosaur. Like even early humans struggled, to survive just against like lions and tigers, like I couldn't imagine like, predators that were, fiercer and larger and scarier, you know. I don't know. I think we probably would have survived, we did in real life. So I think we probably would have survived, but I mean, obviously in modern terms, like they're no big deal anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like if there were still T-Rexes and raptors around, I'm sure it probably wouldn't be as big of a deal.
Yeah.
But like back in the day, could you imagine like, you're just sitting around the fire with your buds, like drinking a little bit of old honey brew mead, and out of the bushes comes like a T-Rex. Yeah, no, it'd be awful.
Yeah.
It'd be terrible.
Definitely not something you want to
It
see.
kind of no, but it kind of leads me to my topic of need D&D. The reason why I'm trying to like dinosaurs in D&D more, and I'm slowly introducing them into our campaign, which we saw in a few sessions ago, or last session, I guess. Wow. But I'm trying to like reintroduce dinosaurs to D&D because I love dinosaurs, but I don't know. I just like have a hard time. I just think of like caveman and wooden club equals dinosaur, not like knights in shining armor and high magic settings. You know what I'm saying?
See, I love
Like,
the
I just think
idea
of, like-
of how I like how you did it a lot. We don't even know the full lore behind it yet, but I love what we can see of it.
Yeah. yeah.
What for those who weren't in the game, which is everyone listening, there are these portals to other worlds. They're kind of just like tears in reality where creatures and things can come through. And certain people like sorcerers and such have this kind of weird connection and are able to manipulate magic to sew them up or open them even wider. We found one, opened it up, and saw the world on the other side, and one of the players remembered a similar looking forest on one of the other continents that he had been to and lived in for a while. And he was like, what? And the forest like grows incredibly rapidly, and so it's literally like almost forcing its way out of the portal into, and as it's growing our area, we're like, this looks a lot like that other forest, like. And so we believe that the reason why there's dinosaurs and maybe even Yuan-ti in that other jungle is because there's a portal over there. So dinosaurs and such don't even come from the main material plane. They come from some other elemental or other plane.
And that's kind of what I wanted. So I'm glad that you said that, because that's kind of what I wanted with my campaign. Like I kind of want, because again, I love dinosaurs, so I wanted to add them, but like I just have a hard time seeing them walking around in with knights in shining armor. And so, like, I kind of wanted it to be I wouldn't say a disaster, but like, oh shoot, like we have T-Rexes coming through this portal and raptors and, all sorts of herbivores and, just like horrible things that we hardly have ever experienced before. Again, not necessarily that you guys have to like think it's a disaster, but like, it's just a different.
Well, so I don't think it's a disaster. I think it's fantastic because I'm about to get polymorph and I want to see a dinosaur.
Yeah.
I want to see a dinosaur.
Well, and, it's just, I want it like when I picture dinosaurs, and this is what I want in my world, is that I want it to feel like it's a different world than what, the world is used to, than what the people of this material plane are used to. And so that's kind of what I'm laying out. And I think going forward, it's going to be really interesting if you guys explore it too, because you're going to find a whole different subset of creatures and wilderness and even humanoids that are not what you anticipated or remembered. Now, you're not going to find like aliens who shoot ray guns or anything, but or anything like high tech. But I think it's going to be really interesting because I want to separate like caveman human versus night human, right? Like caveman and dinosaurs versus like knight in shining armor riding a horse. Like I think like. And when those worlds collide, I think it could be a fun and fabulous thing that I'm kind of excited for.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that's it for the Lukewarm Open. I think that's pretty good for today. So
nice.
Topic time. What do we got going on?
So, as we said at the beginning that we're recording on a weird time because one of us isn't going to be here next week, we decided, hey, let's try a different type of episode. So, Aaron, this is your first time hearing the idea fully. The idea
I'm
is...
by the seat of my pants here. I have no idea what's going
on. The idea is this is a topicless week. So what we do is we say if there was nothing to guide us, like no topic to look at, and you were creating something for this world that we've started for season 5, first off, for the first half of this episode, you just start from literally nothing and just say, what would you do? Like, and just kind of try to talk out your thinking, and then we'll add to it a little bit, and we'll finalize whatever that addition was, and then I'll start and say how I would continue from nothing to a fully thought out idea by the end.
Okay, so we're both going to kind of take turns.
Well, so you take turns with the creation originally, and then we'll do the classic back and forth to kind of finalize the idea. But to start off, how would you start from nothing? From what we have in the world of season 5, where they are deities are celebrities, and a lot of times those celebrities are not going to be the same people on the outside as they are on the inside. And so we've already created 2 that are opposites of what they are on the inside versus what they're on the outside. And we've created a deity that is kind of the ruler in terms of rule making. He is the games master that says this is what is allowed and this is what isn't allowed, and this is how to do it fairly.
And so now I get to just kind of like do whatever I want this week? Question mark?
Yeah. So for the first half, just decide if you had if how would you, if this was your world, just add something to it, starting from nothing, and try to explain your process and thinking.
Oh man. Okay. Boy. So first and foremost, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the world. So I think if I were doing this myself, I would be starting more from like a practical standpoint of creating something that I can build off of in terms of making the world feel alive and like giving it a foundation. And so there's probably one major thing that I feel like I would really want to create before we go forward, and that is so far we're kind of going in this direction of like we have one mecca, like one major city that seems to be like, the city of cities, so to
yes,
speak. Like the place where the gods reside,
and that's the one where people go to pick their god.
Yes. And so if I had to create anything first, I would want to create this city, this area, so that we can kind of give ourselves a rough foundation of more gods, of more events, of things that occur in the city, so that we can kind of leap forward into the rest of the game. So I think I want to create at least, I mean, it's going to be a big topic, which is kind of nice, is I kind of want to create at least something that has to do with the city, if not the general city itself. So that's probably what I would go to next if I was doing it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question then becomes, again, you kind of want me to talk out my thought process.
Yes.
When I'm creating a city, where do I start? What do I do? Because as you probably know, Josh, creating a city is no small feat, right?
Yeah, especially if you want it to feel real when a player gets there and starts asking you a bunch of questions about, okay, where do I go now? What can I do here? What's the...
Yeah. So creating a city, at least in my opinion, is one of the funnest things in D&D, but also one of the most difficult things in D&D, because it's really easy to make just like, oh, you're walking through a bunch of buildings, right? And, players are just like, cool, I go to the shop and buy something, right? It's really easy to make something like simple like that, but it's really, really hard to make a city really feel alive, like you're actually playing, like you're actually there.
And you're meeting people that are actually real inside of it. They're not just NPCs that have a few voice lines.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going into Skyrim and listening to the same guard tell you about the time he got shot, like...
Hold on. I do want to say, I think I've mentioned this before. The term take an arrow to the knee actually means get married.
Oh, yeah. I think you have mentioned that before.
So they're not, they weren't in Skyrim. They didn't all get hit in the knee. It wasn't like, oh, wow, shots to the knee are very common in this world. No, they were saying, I used to be an adventurer before I got married and I had to settle down.
So what you're telling me is, while it's the same voice line, it has multiple meanings. Genius Bethesda. Genius Bethesda. So I think when I'm first making a city, I don't know. Actually, first I kind of want to ask you, what is your process when you first make a city? What's the first thing you do? What's the first thing you make? Or is it there is no plan when you do it?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm world building, like pretty much, like I've been world building all day, and I have started the cities that I've made today by literally creating the lord of it first. And then based on who I make that lord, I'm like, okay, how did this person come to power? Was it hereditary? Was it not? And then based on that, like I created one called Zalia Vesta, and she came to power because of a small revolution in the city that said, like, hey, we don't want the person who was the lord of the city to be the lord of the city. We want her. And in the end, she had enough like support through political means. She was actually really well liked in the other cities that they just said, okay, as long as you don't your rebellion stops in the city, like you don't come and attack the other established powers, you can take over. That's fine. And so I'm like, okay, based on that, I am going to I have to create a city that had some sort of problem in it that caused a revolution to start. And so I'm like, okay, what problem would that be? And I just kind of begin to build.
So it's funny because I use a very, very similar process. I don't necessarily decide the ruler or something like that.
Well, so this isn't how I normally do it. It's just how I'm doing it today.
Yeah, well, no, and that's the fun thing about building a city. Or you could start in all number of different locations, right? You could even just draw it, right?
Yep.
Or look at a picture and then create a city.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be any which way that we, have done it in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It can be any way you want. And
that's why world building never gets boring, is because you can just always if you got bored doing it one way, just go for another way.
Flip it on its head.
Flip it on its head.
Yeah.
Try from the opposite direction. Build it from the feet up instead of the head down.
Exactly. So what I think we should do, and what I want to do in creating this city is we need to start from the very foundation, because I'm picturing that this city is a grand, like, Greek city of wonder, of riches, of splendor, of like essentially a giant mecca for everyone to come and enjoy the festivities, enjoy the events that take place, to watch the gods battle it out, right? Watch the gods participate in these plays and debates and things like that. This just city of ideas. However, a controlled city of ideas, right? Because the gods don't want the ideas to not be about the gods, right? That's kind of what we've been establishing this whole time. It's not like they get to come here and then discuss about, how gods are powerless and meaningless in this world, right? That's not what the gods want. In fact, they've made rules and laws about that. So, the first thing I want to start with is, when I picture this grand city, I picture this, utopia. I have to start with the very beginning, how it started, what it looked like. Why did the gods create it where it was? Did the gods create it? Was it a civilization that was left over and the gods took it over? Was it, and why did it start? And there's a couple ways we can go about this. So right now in our lore, and correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to add anything about what I think kind of like our season kind of looks like right now, is we have the gods, they battle it out, this world that it has no shape and no form, right? They battle it out on this huge world.
Yeah, just like a lump of clay that they form through their combats and stuff upon it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even necessarily want to think just combat. So I could even see like a god painting like like the Grand Canyon, right? Like they paint this marvelous scene that comes to life on the world, right? There are some gods who battle it out and it creates craters and mountain ranges, and there are some gods who, created the biggest plateau on Earth so it could be their biggest stage, right? Like that would be the biggest stage that they can act to the masses. So we have all these amazing events and things that form and shape this world. So I kind of want to ask you, actually, because I think I want your opinion on this. Why do you think gods doing this would stop and make a city?
I don't think they did. So I think I've talked about this before on a previous episode. There's this weird album I found, and I tried to find it again so I could say the name, but I couldn't. Where these people made this story, and they just kind of made this like musical for it. It's like way too many chapters. It's way too long. But it's very interesting.
That's the best type of album, though.
It's very interesting. I got it. I knew what it was. It's New Albion. That's what the city's called.
New Albion.
And so the idea of how the city started is that The Dolls of New Albion, a steampunk opera by Paul Shapira.
Oh gosh. Oh man, that's got to be an adventure.
It is. There's 4 acts and they're all very long. But so the story deals with ghosts and bringing them back as dolls and yada 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 and all this crazy stuff. But the basic premise of how the city that all of this takes place in, which is literally the setup is the first song, is that these people started to have this like chess competition. They just started to have this competition, and it went on for days and days and days. And so as it went on and people watched, they eventually made shelters for themselves to watch, covering themselves from the sun. Then as time went on, people started to try and sell them food and stuff. And then merchants came to be. And then as time continued, then they needed to restock. So then they started creating farms nearby. And like it all built off of the center of it was this game. So having the people that they were, quotation marks, entertaining start to build things around where they were entertaining them That
could be that could be fun.
That would be a fun thing. And it would also, the city would be incredibly interesting to, like, if you ever wanted to draw it out, because it would be so centered on either the one thing in the middle of it, or it would be like there eventually became like a 3-ring circus where there's all these like places of focus, these like multiple rings of where events take place.
Ooh, and they have like districts based on what event is what.
Yeah.
Where they've like, so okay, first of all, I love this idea, and we're definitely going with this. I think this is what we're gonna do.
It's such a good idea.
A little bit of it's so good, yeah. And so what I think is how the city forms is the gods are doing this, these events, right? And separate little groups start forming around the gods, right? So you have like the gladiator arena that everybody's watching. They start setting up to watch things like this. You have like the art, people are watching gods do arts and crafts and, theater and stuff like that. So you have that kind of area. And then you have like the intellectual pursuits of debate and learning and knowledge and like grand libraries and things. And so people started forming these like camps based off of their interest that then grew into one massive city. So you have like 3 sections of the city that all kind of revolve around these kind of 3 main topics, these 3 main domains, if you will, that people kind of congregated around. However, I'm thinking that I kind of want a little bit more to the start of this city. And I want some sort of event, okay, let me start here. We had that the gods came together and they decided to make this system of gaining power, right? Where the more people that worship you, the more votes you win, so to speak, through your event, the stronger you get. And so certain gods have adopted personalities, adopted stereotypes, adopted personas to try and grow that following. And I think there's an unintended consequence that happened at the very beginning when it started. So they all came together and they agreed that let us make our power through this way. And when they did that, they kind of lost some power, because while the potential for power is greater in this new setting, when you start with hardly any followers, it's a little bit more difficult. And so I think that while people started gathering to watch these events and started building the city around it, the gods initially settled here because they kind of lost a lot of power and needed a place to consolidate and regain focus. And so I think that's a fun and interesting way of, they came up with this amazing scheme to gain more and more power, but it backfired originally, where they were like, oh shoot, now maybe we've kind of like shot ourselves in the foot a little bit here. And so they started doing these events to, inspired by how they created the world, they started to do these events to regain their power. And then people started building and settling around them. Does that sound cool?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want to focus on, because we kind of focused on these 3 major districts. Is there any other like version of like any district or domain you can think of? So we have like the gladiator one where it's like fighting and, that kind of theatrical performing through fighting.
And then I would say more of a just straight up arts, like theater. And I'm imagining like slam poetry and like.
Yep. Yeah, slam poetry.
They're slamming each other, man. It's poetry at its harshest.
Yeah. No, I definitely see like the arts being a major one. Do we want to split the arts into like theatrics,
physical and theatrics versus
like theatrics versus like painting?
I think yes, but I think the arts, like in physical, I liked your idea about like painting the Grand Canyons. So I think it is more than traditional art. Like it's more than what we think of art. I think it's like what you were saying, where it's like changing the landscape. It's painting with the power of the world.
Well, what if
I think it's partially outside of the city, so that they have the free space to manipulate the surroundings.
What if we really went foundational here And when these cities started to grow, new forms of art and combat styles and things like that started to develop. So when the fighting section started to overlap with the theatrics section, we started getting like theatrical, the World Wrestling Association, right? Like you start getting this type of thing forming in between the districts, where like a whole new version of fake gladiatorial fighting, where it's just like outlandish and over the top, starts to form. And then when we have like theatrics starting to mix with like painting and the arts, we start seeing like what you were talking about, like world shaping, creating stages and sets and creating all these different things that impact and change the world, landscaping and arts through like growing plants and stuff like that. And then when we start like, mixing these sections of art together from as the city expands, art, theatrics, and fighting, kind of mixing these things together, it just turns into a big melting pot of ideas. And and another example would be you like mix theatrics and like the pursuit of knowledge, and you start getting like written stories and even poetry, like you were saying. So like they start mixing, and when these sections of the city start mixing and these groups of people start mixing, new forms start to emerge and form and like create the city itself as they kind of grow and expand. And so you can literally walk through the districts of this city and see essentially how art and creation and fighting have all kind of woven through history to create this city. And I think that'd be a very fun and interesting topic, like a very fun feel to this city.
It would, yeah.
And so, yeah, you start with like these 3 or 4 basic forms of entertainment, I guess you could say, and they merge and mix together. And so I think the basic ones that I like are, you have like gladiatorial fighting, right? That's a main one. You have theatrics, which is a main one, and then you have, I think art would be separate, like painting and writing would probably be separate. And then you have like the pursuit of knowledge, so studying and debates and stuff like that. And when they all those 4 start to merge together, you get totally new, different takes on the city and new districts and new things that form. Mm-hmm. But those are the 4 main districts that you can go to. Like you can go to the theatrics district. I don't know what you would call it, but you can go to those different districts and see the birthplace of that art, right? And so for the fighting one, it's a massive arena. It's like a huge gladiatorial arena, like in Rome, where you could, seat millions of people around a giant fighting pit to watch the gods battle. And in the theatrics district, it's an amphitheater, like this massive amphitheater where you can hear crystal clear, like from any point within the theater, you can hear the gods as they act and do plays. You can hear perfectly wherever you're sitting. And you go over to like the arts and you can see beautiful paintings and things that have been created, versions of the world that have been shaped and changed. And maybe even there's like a section of the world that still exists for these gods to like paint and change the world. And maybe it's like an entire area outside the city where people can come and see, and they do like a competition where they change the world, and whoever is more beautiful or speaks to the people more, they gain more followers through that. It could be really fun too. So then you get into that kind of area, and then you transfer over to the pursuit of knowledge, and it's this like massive library, right? This arcane wonder where people can come and learn about magic and learn about history and all this, all the things that happen within the world, and religion even probably too. And so I think those would be the 4 main districts that you'd have of this city.
Yeah.
Now, my next question is, how long do you want me to go?
I think this is where we would cut you off. This is where I would start.
Okay. That's what I was thinking too, because I could go forever. So what about you, Big Hoss?
I'm not sure what I should create still. That's my problem. But what I'm going to do is something I have heavily curated and gotten certain algorithms to really understand me so now all I need to do is go towards them and they're like, hey, I got you. I know what you want. And they give me stuff that just inspires me. One of the things that I've done that with is like Spotify. Like I get incredible, my Discover Weekly playlist every week is full of some great stuff. This week has been fantastic. But the one that I'm going to particularly go to for my D&D creation this week is Pinterest. And we've talked about the beauty of Pinterest before. And I'm going to be honest, it took a while to get there. It took a little bit to get there and get it just right. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to literally just click the Pinterest homepage, just www.pinterest.com, and I'm going to see what's out there.
Oh boy. Oh, it's beautiful.
And whatever comes up.
See, mine's going to be like vineyards.
See, now this
is looking at a lot recently.
See, mine is cities right now, but I'm going for something else. So there's two things that drew my attention. I'm going to send both of them to you, Aaron, and I want you to decide. And I think I could go some really interesting places with either of them. So I will describe them once I have sent them to you. So first, I'm sending Aaron a picture of a dagger. Now, this dagger is covered in bones and skulls, and the blade looks like it has a bunch of screaming faces on it. And the other one is actually not fantasy related at all. It is a Soviet soldier of the border / interior troops from they don't even know if it's 50s, 60s, or 70s. And I don't know why, but I got, my brain started going off when I saw it. I'm like, ooh, I got all these ideas. Actually, this person says it's not Soviet. It is a Turkish soldier. The writing on the photo says, with love in Turkish. Oh, interesting.
Okay, interesting. And so you're going to choose, or I'm going to choose, you going to choose between this dagger and this
you choose which one you'd rather me do. I might even pull in a third option.
Let's get a third option. I like both these options, but I want a third option, I think. I'm leaning towards the handsome man.
My gosh. The handsome man is fantastic, but the handsome Turkish man. But now I have sent him it looks like a really skinny, almost like they didn't eat enough. And so they're you can partially see the bones and a little bit too much of their ligaments and stuff. It is a individual on their knees with these red flowers all around, and seemingly floating all around them is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of keys. And they're reaching up and they're holding on to one of them.
I would even say it's like raining keys.
Yeah, look, they might even be moving. It might be a raining situation. Oh, sorry. I got one more. I got one more image. I got one more image. Okay. I'm sorry. This is why Pinterest is so good. It just gives me so many options.
I mean, handsome Turkish man he kind of got dwarfed by this last one.
It's a cat. It's a black cat with a red bow tie, and I just had to send it.
As much as I would love to go with our little handsome prince down here, little handsome prince,
kitty cat,
little black cat.
It's fantastic.
I think we're gonna have to go with the raining keys creature down here because this is fantastic, and I have an immediate idea, but I want you to do it.
Okay, so I see this figure, and I'll just make sure to bookmark this page so I can hopefully find it again and then link it in the description of this episode so you can see it.
This is a really cool photo. This is a really cool picture.
It is a really good image.
A lot.
I think the gods got fed up. Certain gods from the pantheon have gotten to the point where their fights weren't entertaining enough. I'm thinking this is like lower level ranking deities. to the point where they would fight and people would just boo them. They would be bored by the fights. So what they started to do was they're like, okay, without losing some power, how do we make our fights more interesting? They decided the best way to do that is to fight to the death. Like if you've ever seen like the show The Boys or any show where they love to show brutality and viciousness, like just the like head smashing, like just full on destruction of the being of another. That is what this kind of low level fighting in the arena is like, where they go hard and just squash the other person horribly. So all of these keys here are keys to the phylacteries of these gods, because instead of dying, they didn't want to just keep having to recreate an avatar, which is very expensive and uses a lot of a god's power. They kind of made these phylacteries where instead of dying, it would be like a lich, where they go to the phylactery and then in a few days they're recreated again. This person, I don't know who they are, they're going to fully take out one of these gods. They're taking the key to their phylactery and are going to fully kill their avatar. I don't know what benefit that would have or why they would do it, because the god would just have to use a lot of power to create another avatar. Now, if that god was, say, like on the brink of having very little followers, the idea of not having a physical representation in one of these fights or one of these entertainments could be full on death. So maybe they're trying to fully kill one of these deities. Is that where you saw this going?
Similar. Yeah, similar.
Interesting.
I mean, similar in a way, yeah. My initial thought when I looked at this, and again, it's virtually the same as yours, is that all these keys, so, keys, when you think of a key, what does it represent? It obviously represents, something that you can unlock and, find whatever is inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately thought of, like, God's power.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the power of the gods. And so I guess when you said, like, a phylactery, like, or, like, a way that the gods store and keep themselves from dying, I thought that was awesome. And so I love the idea of, like, I don't even know what it would be, though, that's like that found this.
I think I know what it is. I think okay. This is, so last week we created a deity that their whole thing is looking like a hero, looking good, looking amazing on screen, and then afterwards just being the absolute lowest form of person, just the worst, meanest, horrible. Eventually, that leading them to be the big bad evil guy of this campaign. I think this is one of their cultists so this god found out in a horrible event where they had to slaughter a bunch of humans who figured out the true secret of the gods, that he could gain power from killing in a way that for some reason the other gods don't seem to be able to do, or maybe the ones that figured it out were like, I don't want to do this. So this is one of their cultists that when one of these gods was like, as I said, about to almost literally die because they were losing a following, they locked themselves in this phylactery and did this little process. So they are unlocking it so that the god who can get the power from it can kill this lower level god who most likely won't be missed.
Okay, I love this idea. And do you mind if I add a little bit to it?
No, go for it.
So, my thought, too, kind of building on this, is what if we have the big bad evil guy, right? This god who's, on the outside, Prince Charming, and on the inside, wants to rule the world and destroy everything. What if when he kills a god, right? Like when anybody wins in a tournament of sorts, if they deal the finishing blow and the god dies, right? The gods can't die. but they retreat back to like their phylactery, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But what if somewhere a key forms to where their power is located, and this god has found out where that is, and he either takes control or he creates some entity that can find where that key forms. And so what he does is he purposely beats a god in combat, killing them, and he has this creature sniff out and find where the last remains of their power goes to, and then he takes it with them.
I like to think of it more, I'm thinking of it more as like a heist. So everybody knows where the god's phylacteries are. This person is sneaking into the place where the keys are, unlocking it, and then leaving it unlocked, so that when the other god can sneak in later and consume the power, fully killing that god.
What if we don't even...
I think this is super early on in their killing, so I don't think they want them to be associated with hurting this individual. So I think this individual, this other god, was weakened during a fight with someone else.
See, okay, this is where my thought was, because, you know, if this Prince Charming creature kills a god and then immediately, you know, that god disappears, it would obviously be super suspicious.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is what if, like, when the gods disappear, right, and they die in combat, they form one of these keys, and the deity, he has this creature sneak in to where this, you know, area is. They steal the key, and then they give it to the god himself. But he doesn't have to use it, right? But he has the power to just, like, vanquish a god in front of him, right? So in our campaign, we decided that, like, you know, number 6 or whatever, like, if this god was number 7, then number 6 ends up disappearing. So I think, like, number 7 beat him in combat at one point a long time ago, and he's just held on to the key for years and years, just patiently waiting for his time of revenge that this creature gave him. And then after it's forgotten and after time has passed, he just takes that power, and then 6 disappears, right? Like, all because this creature...
So when the party inevitably starts investigating, they will have the story of, oh, the key disappeared years ago. Nobody ever did anything with it, so we didn't think it was a problem.
Or they didn't notice, because this, like, you know, it's a heist. He steals it, and nobody even... You know,
I kind of want it to be none of the higher ups noticed, but like one of the low level workers noticed, and he's like, if I tell them I'm in trouble for this, and then nothing happens, and they're like, well, I guess I don't need to tell anybody. Nothing happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely like somebody to notice, so you give the players a little bit of, you know, like push and shove in the right direction for sure. So you know, and I love that.
And maybe even like maybe if the party like does like a little like does some of the more touristy things in the city before this event happens, maybe you can even have like a person slip up and say like, we only had one incident. I mean, we didn't have any. We've never had an incident here.
Yeah. Okay. What if
something like that to tease it way before?
What if we combine both of our ideas, and in the very center of the city is like this massive temple of the gods, where their little phylacteries are located.
Yes.
And that's where this creature goes and steals the keys.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
I kind of want the keys to be like somewhere so far away from the city that like they're like in like a secret place only the gods are supposed to know about.
Oh yeah.
So it's only the phylacteries that were in a open, like people know where they're at type thing.
Yeah, I would picture them as like, so I would picture like, I don't know if I like the word phylactery, but it's probably the best we have. But
yeah, it's the
like,
best unless we really created our own thing, which would then.
Yeah, but I think it'd be really cool if like, at least part of this temple you can like walk through this like massive.
Oh, totally! I think this is a major place of worship for people that come to the city.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is like a Wailing
true power
Wall
is hidden.
level of popularity. Everybody loves to go and
yeah.
see the phylacteries.
And maybe that's the fifth version of art is like religion. Like the religion is the center of it. Maybe that's like the fifth district that we have.
Oh, I like
Like
that.
religion is the center. Yeah, is like the center of the city because that's what it's built upon. So I think that's really cool. And so, but the power of these like phylacteries or these like, you know, the Wailing Wall, so to speak, is way off, hidden away so that nobody can find it. But this creature right here has like sniffed it out, and he like did this heist through the entire temple, finds this location, and now like, you know, can find where these sources of power are. And I think that'd be really, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so now my question to you, you know, now that you've created it, does our Prince Charming, does he have another key of another god in his possession?
Well, so I think my story still holds true. I think he definitely has consumed some low level deities. And so I think there is the lower deities that disappeared. I think people just think there isn't enough followers, so they just disappeared. But I think he had the phylacteries and the keys, and I think it was a also kind of a proof of concept where he would have the person like, hey, if we can get like one of these level deities keys, and then you can get to the phylactery, like, does that successfully work? How can you figure out the security patterns and stuff, like, and do it on like a lower level scale so that if they get caught, it's only against these low level people. It's going to be a lot less of a problem than if you did it against one of these major deities.
Yeah, no, I think I agree, and I think we start the campaign with Prince Charming having the sixth god key. He has it in his possession, but he hasn't done anything with it yet.
Yeah,
I think that would be an interesting start, where, you know, he has this key, he has the capability of just ending it, but he's waiting and biding his time until he can, right? And that's kind of how we talked a little bit about it last week too, where it was like, what do we do with, you know, this creature, and, you know, how does he eliminate a god, right? And so I think this picture that you brought up is perfect way of doing so. I think that's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one other last question that I have, just based on D&D logistics, how strong do you think this like creature is that grabs these keys?
I don't think it's a creature. You keep saying creature, and I do not like it being a creature.
Okay.
I think it might be a twisted person, but I think it is a, like, I think it's this god's like highest paladin. Because as we said, there are fights and entertainment that is not just done by the gods, and I think that in doing so, those fights are bringing worship to still bringing worship to a deity, but it's the deity that the people follow. So I think this is like this dude's highest paladin in his, or it's like just a random paladin that nobody knows because he doesn't fight in the actual arena. But like, I want him to be associated with his church in some way.
Yeah, well, I agree, but what if we combine these two ideas where he used to be a strong paladin of this church, but we talked a little bit about like people who have become like crazy.
What if he is a revenant?
Or a god.
So he died, and the god brought him back specifically for this task.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would work really well.
So he might even be, if people see him, they're like, wait, is that like this like super well-known dude who died? So he like always keeps his face hidden because everybody would recognize him if he didn't. He's like super well-known.
Or my other thought is we directly parallel, you know, as a hint to players, we directly parallel this guy's story with what happens to the gods who lose the keys and like breaks. So he was once a powerful, famous paladin who became mad and lost all of his power and now is a nobody. But secretly, he's not, right? Like secretly he's not, but that's just like a reflection. So if they like study this guy's life, it's a reflection of what's happening to these gods, where he like, he started, grew in power and power as he became higher and higher in this like church, became this, ultimate paladin who fought in the arena. And then madness, the god that he worshipped, madness overtook him and he fell and lost his power. So it's like a direct foreshadowing to what is to come. This guy's
Could it also be,
even though
the god the god who found out he can take power from killing people, this would be horrifying.
Oh yeah.
What if he took his greatest and strongest paladin and just continually killed him? Kill him, bring him back. Kill him, bring him back. Kill him, bring him back. Just to get that hit of extra power, to the point where the now creature that is left behind from that kind of abuse
he just lives to do his bidding.
Yeah. And is weaker than he was. But it's horrifying. And it's exactly what this type of person would do. He does not care about people.
Well, and too, building off that, it would like eliminate the trace of stealing keys, because he killed that being. He destroyed and killed that creature. So there's no longer a way of, this creature is a new creature every time it's reborn.
Well, I don't think it's a reincarnation, but I think just through all the damage that's on its skin, like, there's no fingerprints, there's no like anything that identifies it as this creature has been cut and slashed away.
That is what I was going with.
Yeah.
So essentially, it is a new creature,
yeah,
even though it's not, because it's just been brutalized over and over and over again.
So that's horrifying, and
that's horrifying, but it also matches the picture really well.
It really does, and it really took that in an interesting way. And I hope people see the kind of weirdness that you can create from just photos just images and drawings there are so many beautiful, incredible artists on Pinterest that just I am blown away by their creativity and interest, just the interesting images. I'm currently looking at one of a guard looking down and talking to a goblin, and the goblin is looking at him, is opening a door in sort of an alleyway, and the door is like half the guard's height, as the goblin's way smaller than him, and he's like looking up and talking at him. Like, there's just so much beautiful fantasy art on Pinterest. It's such a good source.
So much storytelling just within a small photo.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to episode 92 of Dungeoneered. And sorry the last few episodes have been late. We've been incredibly busy in life and such. And as I said, this is literally my night that I would normally be editing the podcast and releasing it that night. But I had to record this instead.
Yeah, but hey, the show must go on.
The show must go on. Well, if you'd like to, if you listen to us on any podcasting apps with ratings and reviews, it really helps if you write a review for the show. Let us know what you think. We'd like to hear your feedback, and also really helps show that you're engaging with the show in more ways than just one. So it really helps the podcasting apps to promote us, to see that we're getting engagement. You can write to us at dungeoneered@hotmail.com. We'd love to hear from you if you have ideas for topics, lukewarm opens, or anything in between. You want to talk about ones we already did, or things you created that you think are incredibly cool. Like, we'd love to hear it all, and we're inspired by the interesting creativity of storytelling out there. I do want to add here, so a long time ago at this point, I'm going to pull up my notes to see what episode it was. In an older episode of ours, we talked about a interesting individual, Gailoran Nemedu. And I said the story of him was so interesting that I was like, I need to read these books. Like, I was like, I am going to find where these books are and read them because this is so cool. Well, I did. And I am listening to it on Audacity. I mean, no, not Audacity, Audible. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Fun.
Yes, Audible. And it is amazing and hilarious, and it's very good. It's the Return of the Archwizard series by Troy Denning. And so far it's been pretty good. But yeah, like, there's so much cool stories set in the Forgotten Realms, and I have absolutely been enjoying, especially after learning lore of the Forgotten Realms, listening to a story that just keeps mentioning things, and then like eventually it goes on to explain it, but I already know like the background lore of it because I know the world. It's so much fun.
You know, it's interesting. So, and this is just totally going to be a shameless plug for Audible, but I'm like, Audible, like, I love it so much. I used to not be like a huge fan of reading, but like having it like read to you is just like, for me anyways, it's so awesome. I just love it. And you can find like time to read when you don't like think you would have time to read because you can just like listen to it. It's fantastic. I highly recommend people do it if they're not into reading, but they love like creative storytelling or like, you know, even movies and stuff, right? Like you can really, even just, I mean, listening to some books have just been like, it's just been fantastic. So highly recommend it.
Yeah. I actually, you want to know how far back this episode was that I mentioned wanting to read this, and I'm only doing it now?
Oh man, I don't remember. It's been so many episodes.
Episode 25.
Hey,
and we're on episode 92.
Gosh, dang, man, we've come a long ways.
We have.
I was listening to one of our older episodes the other day, and just as like a kick, and I was like, man, it's not even remotely the same podcast. I mean, it is, but like,
yeah, but yeah,
you know? Like,
yeah, we figured out what we wanted and what was a good show, and I hope even like we, as we make this, find what we're doing entertaining. So I'm hoping you are too, and thank you all for listening. And as I always say, always remember to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch. See you next time.
What episode was that from? Oh man, that had to have been like episode 10. That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, very much so.
Okay, well, anyways, good ramble. Bye, I guess.
Wow, that was a terrible, terrible ending.